Hello, welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Guthrie.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
That is fantastic. We are here to continue our slow progressing, but progressing.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're doing great. Series on AI,
Yep.
taking it seriously, but for real this time. And we had talked quite a lot about steps. So, if you recall, there was step 1, step 2, step 3, and at each step, the AI is getting more and more sophisticated. So, step 1 was stupid entertainment, kind of random experience generators, frivolous entertainment, frivolous fun. Step 2 is super high-end task automation. So doing presentations, doing social media posts, that sort of thing, and how that might be disruptive. Step 3, doing stuff that experts used to do, but the expert is still involved. We talked about that for a while. Things like that. It's sort of like, it's like having a junior colleague you can put to work.
Yeah.
A law student, first day on the job, kind of situation. So you still need the senior person around, but you do have this, assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're moving on to step 4, which is in our notes, and we have notes today, so we're very, very well prepared, is industry replacement or industry level replacement.
Right. And that's what we're going to talk about. But what you want to define what you mean by that?
Yeah. So we have this it's about the I do want to define it, but I just want to talk about this one thing that allegedly Jensen said. Jensen, he is the founder and current CEO, I think is the founder of NVIDIA, the largest, most valuable company in the world, I think now, and certainly the largest AI chip company. They make graphics. They traditionally made graphics cards and have moved into AI inference, and they're selling a lot of AI chips. So Jensen said that with all the advances, workers would be able to go to 4 days a week. Allegedly, this is what he said in an interview. Mm-hmm. So instead of 5 days of work, you have 4 days. And someone made the comment that it's so nice of the AI to be good enough that they replace 1 day a week of your work, but not good enough to replace the other 4. And
that's not really true, though.
Well, it would make sense that if you were able to replace 1 day of a person's work,
maybe
probably
2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah, so there's sort of like getting up to, like, the difference between replacing 1 day of work and replacing 5 days of work is going from like 75 to 100. It's not going from like 75 to 2,000.
Yeah.
Whereas just getting up to that first spot was probably enough. And so one of the things that that I like to think about when we're talking about industry replacement is this idea of what percentile is the AI when it comes to how good they are at your job, whatever the job is. So percentile, again, is just like, it's someone is going to the worst doctor or the worst car mechanic.
Okay.
Right? Like there's someone who like is getting like the bad version of it,
Yeah.
And so, that's like the first percentile. Then you have the 99th percentile. I'm doing this correctly, right?
Yeah, 99th percentile would mean they're almost perfect.
Yeah, there's basically no one better than than them. They're better than 99% of everyone else.
Right.
So the question is, when it with each of these steps, when you get to the really when AI gets really, really, really good at one of the steps, you sort of move into the other one. So, for example, frivolous fun. Oh, the AI is getting really good at, we'll just say, writing stories.
Okay.
Right? Like that people were just doing just to have a good time, just for frivolous fun. But if you get good enough at writing stories, well, people are like, well, wait, why don't we use this for
instead of the writer's room?
Yeah, did something else. So in each one of these steps, it's like they get really good. So in step 3, we're talking about doing stuff that you experts used to do, but the experts are still involved. So what happens when the AI gets really, really, really good at doing those tasks?
And you don't need the expert.
You don't need the expert anymore. That's sort of the thing. So have we been able to have crossed over where the AI might be, the worst UX researcher?
Oh, I
bottom 10%. I'm just saying, right? So like somewhere out there, someone is hiring a bottom 10% UX researcher.
Well, maybe. Okay.
No, statistically, right?
They have to be, right?
They have that's just how it works.
Above average.
That's right. Right. So just statistically, there's 10% of the UX researchers are actually
pretty bad
in the bottom 10% of UX researchers.
None of the ones we
So
know.
Can you make an AI that is as talented as the bottom 10% of a UX researcher? Because if you can, then you've just displaced 10% of all UX research jobs.
I see what you're saying. So if it can be as better than 20% or 30% or 40%, 70%, 90%, right?
Right.
So when you say, though, let me clarify definitionally, when you talk about this industry level replacement level for AI, what percentile are you talking about? Are you saying if AI can do better than 20% of the people in that industry, then we've reached the industry level replacement mark? Is it 20%? Is it 50? Is it 60? Is it 80?
Yeah.
In your mind, how would you rate that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I suppose probably 60 or 70%, because it's a lagging indicator, right? So like you can't be as good as, because there's implementation costs.
Okay.
So imagine that there's a robot that costs as much to and is as good at flipping burgers as someone flipping burgers at a hamburger restaurant.
Yeah.
The company's not going to switch because it costs money to switch. You can't, there's implementation costs. So you don't switch when the AI is as good as.
Oh, really?
Or the same cost as.
Really?
Well, no, you switch when it's better than or cheaper than.
And cheaper or cheaper than.
Yeah, there has to be something.
Okay. So when
and probably substantially so, because you would imagine that like firing workers that's no company wants to fire workers.
Well, I don't know about that, but so when you use the term industry level replacement, are you factoring in this cost part?
Yeah, cost is definitely a thing. Okay. I guess when I say industry level replacement, well, that's a good we need a definition. I'll just say replaces 51% of the available jobs.
With the cost factor built in.
Yeah, it's just it's like we used to have.
Yeah, I know.
I'm trying to think of a good example.
No.
We used to have a big horse carriage business.
Yeah.
It was replaced by the automobile.
Yeah.
That's an industry wide.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that there's not still people. I don't know about anymore, but yeah, right. Like there's probably a transitionary period,
and then there's
yeah, or you look at letterpress. That's a good example. So offset printing, which is the way everyone prints these days, replaced letterpress printing in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And so I don't even know. I think, I don't even know if there's a single company on earth that's still making letterpress printing equipment, like new. I know they refurb it, or you can buy parts or whatever. Maybe someplace in China makes everything, so maybe. But that doesn't mean that the whole industry's gone, right? You can still buy. There's still people who have the skills and the craft and whatever, but they are few and far between, certainly. And you can, in any industry that has been greatly disrupted, bookbinding and you got any other good examples off the top of your head?
Of what? Things that have been... Well, there's a lot of... I mean, the big manual calculators that the bookkeeping departments used to use. And the bookkeepers that went along with them.
Sure, yeah. But there's still a, or like Cobalt, right? Cobalt was a old programming language.
No, sorry, you got that wrong.
No,
There's
I got that wrong.
T on that. It's COBOL.
COBOL. Sorry, thank you. COBOL.
Yes, sure. Come to me when you need a reference to aging technology. Well,
but there are experts who are highly paid because there are systems.
There are still old COBOL programs out there that need maintenance. Yes. Yeah.
Important ones.
So I understand what you're saying. So, okay. So do you and I agree on kind of where we are at with industry level replacement for AI?
I don't know. We haven't talked about it. That's why we're talking now.
All right.
Well, I think from my perspective, I think it depends on the industry.
Yes, it does. Somewhat. Although I think it's moving forward in almost everything.
It is October 2025.
Yes.
I don't think there has been industry level replacement except for maybe 1 or 3 industries.
You mean complete industry level replacement?
Again, it's not complete, but
near complete.
50 to 75% of the jobs are no longer have been transitioned over to AI.
So if 50 to 75% of the jobs
somewhere in there, you can argue.
Then you're going to argue that means it's reached industry level replacement. I agree with you. I think there's not very many, but I think a year from now it will be much larger.
Yeah, I think we're at the beginning stages of this kind of thing.
And I think it'll go quickly. But you come on. This is our role on the Human Tech Podcast. I'm the pessimist, or maybe that's being an optimist. If you like AI, then that might be being an optimist. I would call it being a pessimist because I think a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. So to me, that's not a good thing. So then I would say that's being pessimistic about this industry level replacement. And I think it's going to hit hard and hit fast in many industries.
So you are going to be sort of running today's session.
Well, the rest of it. Okay, we're already like halfway through.
Well, no, I'm setting you up for the preamble, but this is something I wanted you to lead. One, because I talk too much, and two, because this is when we wanted to do the AI section, this is really where the meat where you had things to say.
I wanted to complain.
Yeah,
I wanted to send out the red flags.
Yeah. So, So this is, this might be 2 parts, right? We often go 2 parts.
Well, we'll see.
But this is the next step This is sort of where we go next, right?
Yeah.
We've done step 1, we did step 2, we're in the middle maybe of step 3, October 2025 in a
Yeah.
lot of industries.
Yeah.
Even since we recorded the
Yeah.
last podcast,
Months ago.
there's
Yeah.
been more news articles about how, people who just graduated college are having trouble finding jobs.
Right.
And there's some dispute over whether that's just market forces or,
Right.
the economic cycle, or if it's AI.
I don't know that
It's
that's
hard to
AI. I think it's
know.
complicated.
Like, for example, both things could be true, right? Like,
Right.
it could be just market forces, and yet CEOs are saying it's because of the AI efficiencies,
Yeah.
which don't actually exist, right? So
Right.
it's hard to know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there are several industries that are going to be are going to feel that replacement really fast. That would be my prediction. And one of them, if you, I'm sure you remember. Oh, I don't know how far back it goes. Is it 2018, 17 when we went to speak at From Business to Buttons in Sweden, in Stockholm? And I think that was the first time I gave my talk on the future of human computer interaction. And that was when I said, you know, there won't be any more programming jobs, there won't be any more UX jobs, essentially, is what I
Right.
said. Well,
Right.
UX, I believed then, and think maybe I believe now, I'm not sure, that there is a role for UX, but not the traditional role. So let's start. I don't know. Where do you want to start? You want to start with UX and how I think we're getting towards industry level replacement there?
Yeah. I think we'll do. Let's fire the big guns first.
All right. So let's start with UX. So if we I'm gonna carve UX into 3 categories. UX/UI design, followed by UX research, not followed by, but that design, research, and strategy. So in the design space, the idea of deciding on what screens or interactions there should be for a particular app or product, and then prototyping those screens and testing those screens, and then getting them into production, uh, stopping at the production part for UX. um, I think that is moving forward. It's interesting because it's kind of glommed together with programming and app development. So it's now that machines are, so if we back up and go outside of UX and just talk about industry replacement for programming and coding, that is starting to happen, where you just describe to the AI what you want an app to do, and it creates the app. And with that, the AI is smushing together programming and design. They
So
are one.
there's a startup, whether it's good or not, which is called Base 44. This is not an ad for them, but they are, basically what we're doing. You tell Base 44 your idea and watch it transform into a working app with code, complete with all the necessary components, pages, flows, and features.
Right. And so that's smushing together coding and user experience design and not making a distinction between it. And uh, you know, you can ask me what I think about this idea. Um, I don't think it's a great idea. One reason being, who is the person that's describing the app, and how much human-centered knowledge is being built into that.
Can I? Okay, here's the first time for me to push back.
Go ahead.
Or not push back, but I will ask you thorny questions that you
Go
will
ahead.
have to figure out. Aren't most apps not designed with the human in mind?
That's right.
And you complain about most of them anyways?
That's right. That is correct. And I think this
Right?
will make it worse.
You think it'll make it worse?
Yes, this will make it worse.
Even though maybe it might make it better.
It won't make it better. It won't make it better. The way we're doing it right now, you have, and you know this because you're involved day to day. You with our clients. You know, you have the programming people and the engineering people, and then you have the UX people. And most of the time, programming and engineering just mow right over UX's recommendations of what should be done. But there's a little bit of influence that the UX people have, and it's a little bit of a collaboration in how the app or the product should work and how it should look and what the flow should be, with some input from the UX people. I think as we move into industry replacement for coding and UX, then there won't be any input, and it'll be I guess it depends. You know, if if all the UX people are the ones giving the prompts, then it might be better. But chances are it won't be the UX people giving the prompts. It'll be business people. It'll be product designers. It'll be product managers who may or may
So,
not be very particularly user centered.
well, let me give you the steel man argument. So, do you know the concept of the steel man?
No, I know the straw man. What's the steel man?
Right. So the straw man is an argument that's like purposely bad. It's like the weakest version of the argument.
Okay, and what's the steel man? The
Right. It's like
best
it's made out of
version?
straw, right? So it doesn't really hold up. The steel man is the opposite.
Okay.
It's the best case scenario argument. So
All
the
right, go
sort of
ahead. Give it to me.
the argument, the strongest version of your argument rather than sort
Go
of
ahead.
the weakest. Instead of being a straw man, you're a steel man. So right now, if you want to make an app, and let's just assume it's a web app, though you could port it to wherever, but let's just assume it's a web app. Right now, probably I want to say 70%, 5% of the biggest expense is development time in some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So so right now UX feels very squeezed and left out, and in some ways, and so it's like UX feels squeezed and left out because it's sort of dominated by development and maybe a little bit by product. But if you look at just raw spend, it's like a ton on development and some on product and feature and marketing.
Yep.
Well, if you cut the development budget just in half, sure, the total amount of money goes down, but let's just, you got to spend it on something. So what is then your competitive advantage in the market? Because the whole point, like right now, if anyone could make a good app, then no one can make a good app, right? Like in the marketplace of apps, some are winners and some are losers, and that's a combination of features and price and marketing and user experience. And I guess, bugs and errors, and that's part of the user experience too in some capacity. So if suddenly you have more budget to play with, maybe the dials and knobs get moved around, and the importance of development actually lessens, and it becomes probably more product centric. But the product people will be more interested in the user experience because,
no, they won't.
Well, but what else is going to be their competitive advantage? You can't necessarily say it's feature anymore because AI, everyone's designing like the feature.
Yeah,
You just say it and the feature comes to life.
I don't know. Okay. I hope there aren't a lot of product people listening.
I'm sure there's a lot of product
I'm not
people
going to
listening.
like what I'm going to say.
It doesn't matter.
Look, it's wrong to make generalizations, and I'll do it anyway. I mean, most of the product people I know are nice people. They're okay people. They don't. However, being user centric is not really, is not really the goal. The goal is usually metrics such as engagement, clicks, profit, and that's fine. I understand that. That's what businesses are about, but often that's at the expense of the user centered part of it. I don't believe that if product people are in charge of design, that will improve the user experience of what we have right now. But hey, please, product people, prove me wrong. I'm just, you know, I'm just concerned. For instance, do you think that the possibility of dark patterns increases if UX people are not involved? If the goal is to get as many people as possible to click that button, the goal is to make sure people don't cancel the subscription. You can you
Have you heard the term the slop apocalypse?
No, but it sounds
No.
terrible. I don't know
You
if I
don't know. You
wanna
don't
know
know
what
about the
it is.
slop apocalypse.
What is it?
So, the slop apocalypse. Basically, the concept you've heard of AI slop, right?
No.
Oh, okay. So AI right now is generating a lot of content.
Yeah.
They make videos, they make images, they make
Right.
articles.
Right.
They're just creating stuff, right?
Right.
But a lot of the stuff they create is not
Very
particularly
good.
of high value.
Yes.
Sometimes it is good, right? So think of like, what's the best washing machine to buy? There's an AI article and it's 10,000 pages long.
Right.
And it's like, what's a washing machine? Things to
Right.
consider. Right. It's just, and they're just trying to keep you on it for ad revenue. That's what's known as AI slop.
Mhm.
It's a regurgitation of something
Mhm.
else. So
Mhm.
slop is the way to do it. There's nothing novel. There's nothing new.
Right.
It's just slop, but it's slop designed to capture the attention of human beings.
Right.
And so the AI is getting pretty good at slop.
Yeah.
If you look at the new app that OpenAI just released, which is, what is it called? Sora, where basically it's like, here's a bunch of, you can make, I think, 10-second videos that are all AI generated and share them
Right.
with your friends. I don't know who this is for, who is doing this, but it's an AI slop generation machine. Like, watch these crazy things happen,
Right.
that are unreal. It's because they're not real. But it's, I guess, entertaining, question mark. I'm not sure. Certainly is engaging. I don't know if people are enjoying it, but it is engaging. So that's just that the whole thing is called like AI slop.
Okay.
And so there's the idea of this thing called the slop apocalypse, which is, there's one version where society is like, you know what, like, this is bad, we're going to reject this, let's go back to like putting our phones down and go walking outside, like the internet will become, there was a, it's funny because we actually lived through a mini version of this. Those of you who are old enough to remember the bane of the crazy pop-up banner ads,
Mm-hmm.
there was a time on the internet, it wasn't long, it was maybe 8 months or whatever, where there was this ever increasing arm race for pop-up ads and banner ads.
Right.
And I mean, you want to talk about a user experience disaster.
Right. It
You
was.
go to yeah, I mean, you go to websites and there were these giant flashing ads.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They would pop up multiple browser
Places
windows,
and times.
different places, and there were
Mm-hmm.
things moving, and like
Mm-hmm.
it was.
Mm-hmm.
This was before ad blockers, right? There was
Right.
no you couldn't stop it,
Couldn't
right?
stop.
You went to a website
Mm-hmm.
and like something would pop up and you'd have to close it. And it was making the user experience of websites almost unusable,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no way around it.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to the whole ad block. I mean, ad blockers came into existence because people were becoming so enraged and insane, like being annoyed with these giant flashing pop-up things that would open a million windows.
Yeah.
And so even the new browsers were invented just to prevent a URL from opening a new browser window without your consent. Like that, that wasn't a feature that existed. And then they're like, you know what? Like this is a feature. You don't just get to open up a new window. I think this was pre-tabs as well, right? So when a new window opened up, a new window opened up. Um, okay, uh, so we were almost there, and then we kind of crested, and people realized actually this is terrible, and let's go the other way, and we'll do less obtrusive, less obnoxious. New technologies came in for those who wanted to block it, and so we adapted and we survived the browser pop-up apocalypse. And so there's a version of the slot apocalypse where, our better natures come to us and we put our phones down and we go make friends and civic activity pops back up and we, touch the grass and, smell a flower and, like exist in the real world. Okay. So that's like one version of how this goes. That we have had, we'll just say, social contagions before, and society. It takes a while. Sometimes it takes 20 years or 100 years. With the printing press, and like we've done it before, where society eventually sort of figures out how to cope with this new pathogen. And you can say the same. People said the same thing when radio was invented. Like people aren't going to be next to each other singing anymore. They'll just be sitting alone in their house. So maybe, right? So there's another version where the AI just gets better and better and better at making endless. I mean, like, someone's like, imagine the engagement of TikTok, make it 5 times better, and it never ends because it's AI generated and it's tailored specifically for like your collection of neurons of what you like. And it's varied and it's different and it just never ends. And so it's so engaging that it just wins. And so that's the AI slot apocalypse version. Like society collapses as everyone just spends all their time watching garbage AI videos that are just they're too engaging. And like the internet as we know it sort of disintegrates as humans don't create content anymore. Why would you ever create content? We can't compete with this AI generated content.
Yep.
That's the slot apocalypse.
Yep. I
So
think it's very possible.
yeah, so you could see a version of what you're so, and this is why it's hard. I don't think we should predict either way, but I do think there's a version where the AI code gets really good, and people are like, great, like now like, and I don't even need to hire any UXers because the whole front end is just
Right.
generated.
Right. Correct.
It's responsive. Did you know that it's responsive?
I think, and I think, personally, I think that will happen. So there's a couple. All right. I want to
Yeah.
still. I
But
want to talk
I'm saying, but there is another version where people are like, if everyone can generate a good app, how can we differentiate ourselves? Let's
Mhm,
hire some UXers,
mhm.
or whatever the profession after UX is. I don't know if it has a name or whatever, but like the human app enjoyment expert.
Oh, human HAE.
It'd be HPE, right? Product, like
Human.
the human product.
No, I thought it was just going to be human. All right, we'll have to come up with a good name.
What acronyms? Yeah.
Um, actually, though, okay. Wow. Now I have a lot of things I need to say.
Good.
I think that's a great idea. I like that idea. Rather than bemoaning the fact that UX is going away, I think we should create a new UX category, UX ish category for the future. Um, so that people who understand people can be in charge of the creation of these apps. I think that would be a great idea, and um, I I like this idea, and I think that's probably what we should do with our business. Okay, so then the other thing I wanted to say was I do want to talk about UX research and UX strategy in this too, but something you said just reminded me of some research I heard about recently that I think is might be relevant in this whole in all these transitions we're going through. So I don't know if you know about the traditional research in which you put a rat in a cage and you give them a choice between drinking like, you know, yummy fruit juice or it's actually slightly sweetened water, which they like, or the slightly sweetened water that has opioids in it. And, in these classic studies, the rats just drink the opioid water and lie around in a stupor until they die. I mean, because they don't even eat, they don't do anything else. It's all they want is the opioids. And that was part of the whole, this was research on, addiction and how addictive substances are and so on. But apparently, I don't know, along with that or more recently, the research was there was some slightly different research, kind of the same setup, except in that research, when they did that research, the rats were pretty much alone in the cage with nothing to do except eat and drink. So then what they did was some researchers have redone the experiment, giving the rats a very rich cognitive and social environment, which rats are very social and they also are ridiculously smart for how little they are. And so they like doing things. They like mazes and exploring, and they like interacting with other rats. So they gave them a socially and cognitively rich environment, and then they didn't want the opioids. So I think that's interesting. And I'm going to extrapolate in a very non scientific way and say that, um, back to your backlash idea, it might be that if we have uh, lives that are rich in cognitive challenge and social interaction outside of the AI and maybe outside of digital, then we don't get sucked into the AI slopocalypse,
Slop apocalypse.
slop apocalypse, because it's just it's not the real world, the not non AI slopocalypse world is more interesting, and we like it better than the slopocalypse. So that's me being optimistic. Take the win. Okay. Anyway, all right. Can we talk about industry replacement on UX research?
Yes, we can. My mic. Okay. Can you hear me? Is this the?
Yeah. You're on the right mic.
Great. I accidentally knocked my cable out. All right. What was the question that you had just asked? Can we talk about?
Can we talk about industry replacement for UX research?
Sure. So, all right, industry replacement for UX research.
Yeah.
Now, why'd you pick research? Why not
we
design?
About design. I did talk because we just talked about design.
We just talked about design.
So now I want to talk about research.
Research. Okay. I thought we were talking about just UX in general, but we're talking about UX design. So let's talk now. Let's talk about UX research.
Yeah.
UX research is a misnomer because really it's just research. And I would imagine that if AI could do one type of research, it could probably do a lot of UX types of research. One of the things that AI is particularly good at is repetitive, predictable tasks. And as crazy as this sounds, writing things online is actually very predictable because there's a lot of data that you can train off of. And so the way someone asks what's wrong with their cat is actually quite similar to the way they ask what's wrong with their dog or what's wrong with their lawnmower or what's wrong with this or that. So it's like in some ways it is kind of predictable, a lot of the text-based stuff. Once you get into industry level replacement, you're talking about tasks. And in some ways, I mean, I don't know enough about coding and programming, but in some ways it is actually quite predictable, because you have a output you can work towards. So I want to have a login page. There's best practices, but at the end of the day, when I click all the buttons, it has to successfully put the variables in the database and call the right, JavaScript this and run this and then do this, whatever it is you're coding. At the end, you can verify whether you're right or wrong.
Yeah.
And then that's really useful for the AI to know if it's doing a good job or not. And maybe that's an oversimplification, and maybe people who code is like blah blah blah. But I will say, there, for whatever reason, and maybe it's because the programmers are the ones who are making the AI, so that's what they focused on. AI, see, that seems to be the industry that AI is replacing. It's replacing translation, right? Like translators are. You're a translator, right? Like that's tough because you basically have real time, pretty good translation now.
Yep.
So one of the things that makes UX so challenging is that UX research, there's actually a lot of different skills that are really, really quite separate from each other, right? There is some of it, I suppose, is repetitive. Planning a UX study, I would imagine that the AI could probably do if it asked the right questions. And again, we don't need it to be. I mean, that's the thing. You have really high standards, but we're talking about the bottom. Well, but let's just talk about the bottom 15, 20% of UX researchers, right? So this is not the best work. This is okay work, minimally acceptable.
Well,
and
I have a hard time with that, but
well, no, but that's
that part
that's replacement.
That can be replaced because it can.
If you're not a good UX researcher, Susan's coming for you.
No, I'm okay. You've done research interviews. Talk about repetitive tasks in terms of doing the interview.
Yeah, no, this is true. And this is something that you have to know the field, and I don't know what other fields are like this. Like, for example, plumbing may be like this. I don't know. Where like the skill level between the average plumber and a good plumber and a great plumber is like really big. Like there are big jumps that happen between each one. Whereas I think other fields are flatter. And of course, in any field, you're going to have like people who are like the best of the best. And they are always playing on a different level. You know, like the professional rock, paper, scissors players.
Okay.
Right? There's like, well, but the difference between like a bad rock, paper, scissors player and like a good rock, paper, scissors player is like not very big. But from good to like professional is like this huge jump. So there's in any industry, there's going to be like the people at the very top. Okay.
Right.
And I'm not talking about them.
Right.
We're not talking about them.
Okay. I've been investigating AI and UX research a little bit. And experiencing some of it a little bit. And some of it, here's what I think about it. I think the potential is big and the current execution is poor.
Because you have AI, there are AI avatars. I've heard about people who do like a job interview and it's just an AI, but they use like the guy's face.
Yeah.
Right. So they train a model based on your own face, and then you have your model do the interview.
Well, here's the thing. Look, you
could imagine an AI walking someone through a usability study.
Well, so all right. Look, in UX research, the tricky parts are which questions to ask and how to ask them. I'm sure I can imagine that AI could do that, but that to me is really hard and takes.
It's tricky because you can write the questions, but only a real expert knows whether those questions are written correctly.
Because yeah, I mean, we had this conversation with a client yesterday. It's like here's what I want to get at. Here's what I want to know, but how am I going to word that? And that I think is some of the trickiest part of research. I don't see AI being able to do that yet, but I could be wrong. I certainly think in terms of doing the interviews, asking the questions, and maybe even asking the probing follow-up, maybe AI could do that. I've experienced the analysis of the transcript, and I've experienced AI analyzing the transcript and coming up with the insights. And I personally think when I've experienced that, it's done a very poor job. It's just picking up the most obvious things, not the nuances, even getting some things wrong because it's because of the focusing on word analysis and so on. So I think
there's a lot of and sometimes when you ask a question, it's a little bit like a academic psychology experiment, right? Do this memory game, right? Well, we don't care about the memory game where we were testing to see whether, if you put your coat on the rack when you walked in or something, right? Right. So half the time, or maybe not half, maybe half, I don't know. Half the time when we are talking about a subject, it's not about the subject we're talking about.
The subject, and we're saying things and we're introducing things in order to get at something else, and so that I think
tough.
that I think is tough. I think if you're talking about straight usability, could they do the task? Did they get through the screen?
Measuring time on task.
How long did it
emotional
take
response?
How many errors did they make? Which errors they made? That I think it definitely could be done.
Feedback section at the end.
And in fact, there are now AI tools where they don't even have people do that.
Sure.
The AI does that, pretending it's a person.
I do have to say, I have to say two or three things about this.
What?
There have been a number of, we'll just say, we do this thing called audits. We sometimes the behavioral science audit, or could be a usability audit.
Mm-hmm.
And really what it is we're just, the client's not paying us very much, and we're just sort of doing, with our expert eye, a once
Right.
over. Here's what you did
Heuristic
wrong.
evaluation. Yeah. And
Yeah.
cognitive walkthrough. Yep.
Yeah. So sometimes when we do these, you'll turn to me and you said, did anyone even look at this? Because it's so stupidly obvious. If you just, like, clearly this was made in a system and you hit continue and it
Right.
goes to a different system that someone else did,
Right.
and no one has actually done the full flow. They looked at
Right.
the
Right.
screen, at each
They looked at
screen,
one screen or a few
each
screens,
slide,
but they didn't
right?
go
But
through
they
the whole
never
process.
actually
Right.
did the flow from start to end. And we did a project. This was a couple years back, but we did a project with a major insurance company, and we analyzed their flow for customer insurance something coverage, doesn't really matter. And it was exactly like this. And over the course of like one user doing a couple things, I think we found like 23 different variations of the continue button.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
one was like green, or was red, or was bold, or was like
It didn't
continue,
say
or was
continue. It
next.
said a next. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was.
next, or
I had a lot of
finish.
fun with that. We took all the different iterations and put them on one screen, and it's like, this is just doing one task a
Yeah,
lot
right. And it
better.
makes it feel disjointed, and
Right.
there's no consistency to
Why,
it.
you know,
And so, yeah, and like if you want to toss from one database to the other, that's fine, but like the user
right,
shouldn't feel that.
right, right.
Um, so, but so there is some low hanging fruit that I
Right.
do think you could get an AI agent to
Absolutely.
just walk
You
through
could.
and be like, this link is broken. These buttons don't line up. You could even train it on some really basic best practice about
Yes.
form length, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
why, like you have a date form, but
And
it's like the
yeah,
entire length of the page.
consistency, matching industry expectations, matching human factors expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we should go build that, okay? But you don't want to build
I'll
any AI
I'll
app.
I'll get a subscription to Base 44.
Okay, go ahead.
No, but right, but so I actually do think that there are some. I do think if I mean it depends. So Susan, here's a good question for you. I like this
What?
question.
What?
Is your goal,
Mm-hmm.
just like as an advocate for UX,
Mm-hmm.
to have more work for yourself, or to have the user experience of products be better? And by yourself, I mean like you, but like the profession. Or is it to just we advocate for the user, and we just want the user interface to be good?
This is really putting me on the spot.
Thank you.
My goal is to improve the user interface. And I believe, which is why in the talk I give, and I gave many years ago, my point was you better figure out which part of this field of human factors is not going to go away, or at least not going to go away as fast, because large portions of it are going to disappear. And so if if you are doing those audits, if that is your job, you will be replaced. If you are doing, a very standard usability test, you will be replaced. If you're drawing screens, in prototyping screens in Figma, you will be replaced. So don't do those things. Do the more strategic things that won't be replaced. But right now, I'm very here's though, Guthrie, why I'm very even more concerned about jobs in UX. Again, remember, I'm a pessimist. I'm even more concerned because we can say that, but if the AI can do some of the things we were just talking about, do the audit for consistency, do
Some
the
best
basic
practices.
usability tests, integrate the best practices.
Automate testing so that companies
That's right.
feel free to do some usability tests on a product,
I
like
am
ever.
I am so pessimistic that I don't even know if most companies would be interested in that. Or were they willing to spend any money on that? And B, if they do, they will go, well, that's good enough. We don't need any more than that. We don't we got it. There you
But I
go.
feel like that's more than most companies are doing now.
Well, then
One
it is
is like if you had an AI auto checker that was just bolted onto Figma or whatever, that or whatever
true.
platform that a
I
company
know.
has, and it just analyzed for consistency, basic problems, flows that were like
And
obviously
and fixed
broken.
it. And fixed it.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Press one
Automatically creates a
button and it
Jira tag
analyzes
for the
it.
AI agent
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
coding agent to make
Yeah.
the changes
Yeah.
in production and
Right.
send that out for, the push that out for the
I
next
think
release.
it'd be more likely that companies would do more UX work that way.
And that's why I asked you the question about what's your preference, because in that capacity you have to be happy because the overall user experience of things would go up. So this is the this is a classic example. So of the ports, okay? In the United States, we have these dock workers and they unload all the cargo off the big ships, cargo ships that come into
Yeah.
America. And in some other countries, especially China, there's been a big push to automate all these systems, have little giant, big investment, but have like kind of robot, automated processes, like the way you would have in a factory, versus having a human, lifting these cargo things
Right.
in and out. And there's probably benefits to having a human, and probably and there's obviously benefits to automating it as far as production and efficiency goes. But the dock workers are considered really quite essential to I mean, obviously, right? Like they unload. If you don't have the dock workers, like we saw
Yeah.
this with the supply chain crunch. Like, I
Right.
mean, it's a disaster.
You don't get the
You
product,
don't get
right?
the products, then it's really bad. So we want the dock workers and we want them to be happy. But they're in a union, and so
Right.
like they're fighting the automation of the ports really hard.
Right.
It's probably so on one hand it's like we want this profession, you know, you know, ship unloader to exist.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, then you should be against the automated
Yeah.
port stuff.
Right.
If you're like, I just want cargo to enter the United States as efficiently and cheaply as possible, then you
Right.
should be for like destroying all these jobs. And so I do think a similar thing is coming, like for example with UX. I do think that if you can get some basic, low hanging fruit UX checker, automated
Yes.
AI agent, something, probably the overall user experience of a lot of the average app probably goes up,
Yeah.
and maybe the expertise for the top end apps go down.
Yep.
Maybe you see this in graphic design. I mean, in my opinion, like the pinnacle of graphic design was like the 1920s and 30s when you had armies of print workers who
Right.
spent their whole life with typography and moving text around and putting it physically, and they had all these incredible skills. And then they all got replaced by offset printers, as I discussed earlier. And so they're not there anymore. And so the number of talented people who would enter the profession and then get really good at it and do the high level work is just a smaller pool. So it's possible that if this happens and you automate a bunch of stuff, the average, the bottom comes up, but maybe the potential for the high end goes down. I don't know.
All right. Well, I don't know after that discussion whether I should just start retirement now or whether we should invite whoever's going to do some of these automatic UX apps to, bring us on board
Well,
in their
let me
effort.
ask you one or two other questions. We're talking about automating the UX industry,
Yeah.
and what is it? Step 4
Or,
is what we're on,
mhm.
industry replacement. Do you feel like you've sort of said enough about it? Do you feel like you have more things that you want to say? Should we do a part 2 of step 4, or do you feel
Mm,
like you've
No,
you've
I
you've
feel
appropriately
I think
addressed your
we're good.
concerns?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
Yeah, I
next
mean,
time we should do our last step, step
our
5.
last step, step 5. I will just conclude by saying, like, I don't, you know, as we go up the steps, I do think it gets a little harder to do in some capacity because we don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Or
very,
how
very
fast it's
uncertain,
going to happen. Yeah. What's going to
and how
happen
fast it's
and
going
how
to
fast.
happen.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So it is hard for us to sort of say, like,
Do
maybe
this.
it's good or this. Like,
Yeah.
what if this happens? Then
Right. Right.
we can't really speculate too much. I will just conclude by saying that, I mean, UX as our test case, and obviously this is true with a bajillion other industries, right? From a bunch of, we'll just call them white collar industries, right?
Yeah.
From accounting to legal work to obviously development, and there's just a lot of stuff that the industries might get very much disrupted by AI. And I'll just say that I think there is potential in using UX as our test case. I think there is potential for sort of this sort of uh, we'll call it step 3 plus plus,
Okay.
right? Because step 3 was the AI is a helper,
Right.
right? But the expert's still involved.
Still there. Yeah.
Maybe there's a happy middle ground where we get to like step 3 plus 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 plus.
Yeah.
So yeah, 75% of the UXers are now unemployed, but the 25% that's left are really high end specialists who have
Mm.
this army of tools at their disposal to really focus on making the UI good for, really being user focused. And in some ways, it is sort of a back to where it was, because when you got into the UX field, that's what it was. It was a small subset
Very small
of
group.
really talented people with PhDs and master's degrees. And these were highly trained, highly expertised professionals doing this high level work.
Yeah.
So maybe
Hmm.
there's sort of like a middle ground where, yeah, all the people doing Figma prototypes, okay, sorry, and a lot of the people doing really low level UX research, okay, and all the college grads, there's like disruption. We'll talk about that in the next part, but just from a raw, like, does it make the user experience better? Maybe it does, because there's still one fourth of the UXers, the really talented, high end, very specialized, trained people. They have resources, they have skills, they have knowledge, and now they have um, uh, uh, great tools at their disposal
I
to make
feel
it
like
better.
we've possibly just um, offended or depressed most of our listening audience in this episode.
But we always knew we were going to do that. Uh,
I
Susan
know.
gets 10. Susan gets 10 extra points because I think like 7 years ago she was putting together a deck that was like the death of
Yeah, I
UX,
was. I was.
the end of
I have
UX.
it's got dates on there. There's a video with a date on it that you can prove that I did it. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, what good does that do any of us that I saw that coming? All right.
Just
Well,
credit to you.
thank you very much. So we'll do maybe what will be our last one next time, which is step 5 on the last one of this series. And then we'll move on and talk about other
then
things.
We'll mercifully move on.
We have some plans coming up of maybe having some guests on as well. So hopefully people will keep tuning in.
Yeah. Step 5 is like policy replacement. Like you're replacing the people who make decisions.
Yeah.
That is step 5.
Interesting. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And Guthrie, if people want to reach us,
you can email info@theteamw.com or just go to our website, theteamw.com.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.